You ready?
Yeah.
All right. And you're live.
All right. We are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my paint night. Okay, my name is Elizabeth. I am one half of the band Pocket Vinyl, and I'm going to be leading everybody tonight doing a painting in yellows and oranges with a couple of ravens. So to start out, let's go through all of the supplies that you should have gathered in order to join me tonight. I'm going to be painting on this canvas board. You can, if you don't have a canvas board available to you, you can use a piece of cardboard, a piece of wood. Paper might not work out too well, but maybe if it's a heavier piece of paper like a cardstock or something like that might be all right. So that's going to be my surface. I'm going to use 3 different paintbrushes. So I have a large, wide paintbrush here, flat, large paintbrush, a medium-sized one. It's about a centimeter, I would say. And then one very small paintbrush for detail work. So those are my 3 brushes. I've got some newspaper down to cover my surface so that I don't make a mess. I've got, I'm using, for my palette, I'm using paper plates. You can also use newspaper or tinfoil, cardboard, anything will work for a palette. The paints that I'm going to be using tonight are, I've got white here and black, as well as the 3 primary colors. I'm going to be using a lot of yellow, a little bit of red, and a little bit of blue. Okay? Now the paints that I'm using are Blick acrylic paints. You can also use a craft paint, tempera paint, pretty much anything that's water washable will work fine. And on that note, I also have a cup of water here for washing my brushes out. And lastly, I've got a rag. You can use a paper towel just for after I've washed out my brushes, just to wipe them off so things don't get too wet. Okay, so I think I'm ready to get started now. Also, just so you know, if you're having any issues with the live stream or you need me to slow down or anything like that, please feel free to comment on the chat. Eric is going to be in the other room checking out the chat and making sure that everything here goes smoothly on my end. All right, so I'm going to get started here with my yellow paint. Whenever I start doing painting with acrylic paints, I always mix up the paint beforehand because it can settle and separate a little bit in the bottle. So mixing it up, and then I am going to put just about a quarter-sized bit onto my palette of the yellow. So there is that for you to see. Then I'm going to take my white paint, mix it up, and I'm going to add just a tiny little dollop with the yellow. I don't usually like to use acrylic paints straight out of the container. I feel like the color is often very thin and watery, and so adding just a little dollop of white or sometimes black if I'm going for a darker color, or blue. Actually, I would probably do blue more than black. Will just help to thicken the color up a little bit so that it isn't really streaky on the surface that I'm painting on. So I'm going to take now my large paintbrush. This one looks to be, it's probably about an inch wide. But anything, you just want to get a lot of paint onto the surface. So I'm going to take my large brush. I'm going to mix up the white and the yellow that I just put down. So I've got a very nice kind of, say like a daffodil yellow color here. So that's what that turned into. Not too light, not too brilliant. And then I'm just going to cover the entire surface of my canvas board with this. And I'm going to try to do it without getting paint onto my microphone. So you don't want the paint to be too thick here because it is just the background color. And because my surface is white and my paint is a light color, it's okay if the white kind of comes through a little bit, because I'm not trying to, like if I was using like a darker color, like a black or something, is everything okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. If I was trying to use a darker color, I'd probably have to do a couple of coats, or try to do the paint a little bit thicker. But because this is such a light color on such a light background, it's okay to have it really, really thin. And that way it will dry faster and we'll be able to quickly start layering on top with the other colors for this painting. So this painting that I am doing with you tonight was a painting that I created during a Pocket Vinyl live stream show earlier in the pandemic when we couldn't tour. I'm just going to flip this around so that I can get the top part of the canvas without painting right onto my easel. So early in the pandemic it was 2 years ago now, spring of 2020, Eric and I did a bunch of live stream shows because we had to cancel a big tour that we had planned to go out to the West Coast and around the middle of the country, and it's really disappointing. And then we actually had to cancel. We had planned another one for February, this past February, and we actually had to cancel that again because of the variants that were spiking. So we've got something planned now for, we're going on tour in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today we're going to be going on tour again, and I'll tell you those dates a little bit later on. And I'm really hoping that that tour doesn't get canceled. Okay, so now that I've done the surface all in yellow, I am going to rinse my brush in my cup of water. One thing that you do not want to do ever is to leave a brush down into your water. It's really bad for the bristles of your brush, and you will find that you destroy brushes that way, and then you have to buy more brushes because they're destroyed. So always rinse it out as best you can. Use your rag and squeeze out excess water. And then at the end of this painting, I am going to run all of my brushes under running water to make sure that there's no paint caked into the bottom parts of the bristles down here. Okay, so there is my yellow background color. Now I'm going to go ahead and start mixing the first orange. So I still have a bit of yellow on my palette, so I'm not going to add any more yellow. If you have used up all of your yellow already, then I would suggest add a little bit more to your palette. And then you can take your red. I'm going to mix it up. And I'm going to put a tiny amount, like a little pea-size amount, not on the yellow. Don't put it right on the yellow, okay? So I'm going to take my red, I'm going to put it near the yellow, little pea size amount, but not right on the yellow paint. Now the reason that I'm doing this is because it's always easier to add a little bit more of a dark color to a light color, but you cannot take it away once you started mixing it in. So I'm going to take my medium-sized brush. With the medium-sized brush, I'm just going to dab a tiny bit of this red, and I'm going to start mixing it into the yellow that I've got here. What I'm looking for is a really light, pale, sunshine kind of an orange color. So that's a little bit lighter than I want. I'm going to reach over and dab a little bit more red and mix that in. And that is much closer to the color that I want. All right. What would I compare this to? Maybe so I mentioned the daffodil, yellow daffodil before, so this is like the orange inside of a daffodil. Okay. So now I'm going to, using my medium-sized brush, I'm going to take this light orange and I am going to do 2 lines on my canvas here. Let's see, I'll do one here, going like that. It's a little pale on the screen, I think. Make that a little bit darker so you can see it. And then I'm going to do another one a little bit lower, not equal heights, one about there. Okay. Now these are going to be 2 of my spruce trees. So starting at the top, again, still using the medium-sized brush, I'm going to just make them kind of Christmas tree shaped. You see that okay? It's a little, it is a little light. Just adding branches on either side as I go down, pointing my brush strokes to go up so that the branches kind of look like they're reaching up towards the sky a bit, like this. So some of you know I grew up in northern Canada, in northern Quebec, and these trees, these types of like spindly spruce trees, are the most common trees that we'd have up there because it was so cold and windy that anything much bigger, heftier couldn't really grow that well. And so I feel like these are the kinds of trees that I put into my paintings most often because I'm the most familiar with them. And I used to kind of think they look like ugly Christmas trees because I always wanted like, you know, nice, perfect, triangular shaped Christmas tree that you see in like, you know, like the Charlie Brown special where he like goes to the Christmas tree lot and there's all like those perfect trees. That's what I thought Christmas trees would be like. But now I really like just the spindly character that these types of spruce trees have. So I'm going to do both of them. And I'm just using quick, small strokes to give these just a little bit of shape. Now these two, we're going to be covering them up with, not covering them, but like these are the background trees. So don't worry about trying to make them too perfect. You want them to be a little bit, you know, out of focus, a little bit fuzzy, a little bit funky. It's fine. There is that. Okay. So now, whenever I go to clean off my brush, before I put it into the water, the first thing I do is I kind of squeeze it out, squeeze the paint out on the palette and just like twist it and wipe as much paint off of it as I can. Because if you put a paintbrush with a ton of paint right into your water, you're going to get really muddy water very quickly. So try to squeeze out as much paint as you can on your palette, and then paintbrush into the water, rinse it off. Good. So those are my two light orange background trees. Cleaned off my brush and squeeze out the water with the rag. Okay, now I'm gonna do my next layer. I'm gonna be doing 4 layers. So I've got the light yellow down as the first layer, light orange as the second layer with a couple of trees, and my third layer is going to be a darker orange color. So I'm going to, let's see, I've already got some red on here. I think I'm going to need a little bit more paint. So I'm going to grab a little bit more yellow, mix it up again, just in case, and squirt that down. And then a little bit more red. Again, don't put, when you're mixing colors together, don't squeeze the paint directly onto the color you're going to mix. Always squeeze them in separate areas and then combine them using your brush. So I'm going to use my medium brush again, all clean, and take my palette, and I'm going to get a pretty big amount of red on my brush, and I'm going to mix it all into this. And I don't know if you can hear my cat Whiskey in the background there, but she has a toy mouse. She is very excited to let me know that she found it. Sometimes in the middle of the night, she'll come up on our bed and just howl at us to let us know. And we need to tell her we're so proud. And then we take her mouse away. So I am doing a pretty dark orange color. Not like, yeah, I got orange. It's as orange as you can get without going red. Like an orange or maybe a grapefruit, but that's pretty good dark orange. Mix up as much of that as I need, as I think I'll need. So I've got quite a bit of paint here because we are going to be using this one to cover up a good portion of the bottom of the painting. And I want to make sure that I have enough. So it looks like I've got maybe 2/4 worth of paint. What would I compare that to? Like the size of a cookie, depending on your size of cookie. So there's my paint. Now I am going to, still using my medium-sized brush, I am going to do 2 trees similar to these ones, but, well, they're only similar in that I'm doing 2. These are going to be completely different types of trees. But they're going to be straight up and down. I'm going to go from the very top of the canvas. I'm going to go straight down here, and I'm going to go straight down here. So using my medium brush, just go like this, doing it at a bit of an angle. So I want to make sure it's straight. There's that. I'm wondering if I didn't make my paint quite dark enough. I'm going to add just a little bit more red to my paint because in this lighting, it's just not quite darker. I want it to be quite a bit darker than the background trees. So I'm adding a little more red to mine just to make it more of a dark. So now my, I feel like my orange is looking more like a, like poppy orange red, or I don't know, I'm sure there's some kind of word for the color. I have some friends who are really good at naming colors, and I feel like people ask me all the time, like, oh, what's the name of this color? You're an artist, you should know this. What do people call, what do you call this shade of blue? I was like, I don't know, I call it blue. I don't think too much about the names of things. All right, so there is one of my dark purple tree trunks. Going all the way up to the top. You notice that I've been leaving the bottom part of this blank. That's because we're going to fill it in with this dark orange as well. So there's one tree trunk, and then I'm going to do another one here. Like this. Now hopefully I am going slow enough here so that your paint is getting time to dry in between coats. But if you feel like your paint is still way too wet and you don't like how it's mixing on the canvas, feel free to pause the video and let your paint dry for a little bit before picking it back up again. Just make sure you don't leave your paintbrush covered in paint, otherwise acrylic paint does ruin brushes completely if you don't rinse them out. Because it's a plastic, it's acrylic, you know, acrylic means plastic, so it will turn your paintbrushes into a solid piece of plastic. One thing that I'll do sometimes if I want my paint to dry a little bit faster is I will put it in front of the fireplace, put it in front of a heater. You can use a hairdryer. There's one time we were about to play a show and we didn't have a board prepared for the show, and we had a hotel room, so the venue was connected to a little strip, like a little motel, and so we had a motel room right next to the venue. And so I very quickly, you know, a half hour before we were supposed to play our show, I gessoed a board, and then in the motel bathroom I was using the hairdryer to dry the gesso so that I would be able to paint on it within a few minutes. So there are my two tree trunks. I'm going to now cover this bottom part. I'm just going to do kind of a loose, like, this is a like very loose chunk of foliage, like a big bush down here at the bottom. And I'm going to quickly switch over to my big size brush. So I'm going to take my medium brush and I'm going to rinse it off in my water. Clean it off with my rag and then switch over to my big brush. And then with my big brush, I am going to fill in this whole bottom part with my dark orange color. So this will all be kind of like a dark orange foliage here at the bottom. Now you do want it, because you've got a light background, I want it to be opaque. So I'm putting it on a little bit thick, but not too thick, because I also want it to dry in time for the next layer that I'm going to be putting on. I'm going to be putting a layer that goes right over this, so don't put it on too thick. Again, if you feel like your paint is not drying enough for the next layer when I get to it, just pause the video, wait for it to dry, and then pick it back up again. And that's fine. But we might also be doing enough detail work that this will have time to dry before we get to the darker color. So see how it goes. There's that, all smooth. And now I'm not going to be needing the big brush again for a little while. Will I be needing? Oh yeah, I'll need it later. So I'm going to rinse it off with my water. Thank you again for joining me for this paint night. We did a lot more of these. I know I did at least a couple of them at the beginning of the pandemic. Now, as the pandemic numbers are going down, which is great, I know a lot more live things are happening in person, and people don't need as much live stream entertainment anymore. But we decided to do a couple of these types of things while we gear up for our tour in 2 weeks. So we did a couple of painting auctions online, which went really well. Thanks for those of you who participated in those. Eric did a live stream show where it was just him, and he was debuting just all new music that he's been working on. He's been working on so much new stuff lately, and that was kind of cool that he was able to share a lot of that with you guys. And then next week, next Thursday, Eric and I are going to do a full live stream pocket vinyl show. It's just going to be the two of us. It won't be a full band thing, but Eric will be playing piano and singing, and I'll be doing a live painting, and that live painting will be auctioned off later that same night. So if you want to tune into that, we'll try to do it on YouTube again, and we'll probably have it on Facebook Live and Instagram as well. So tune into that 1 week from today. I'm pretty sure that's also at 7 o'clock. Now, I'm going to, switching back to my medium-sized brush, I'm going to start putting some details around on these 2 tree trunks. So I'm going to give these trees some branches up top here. These are also evergreens, but they're tall pine trees. So different type of evergreen. Grow very tall and very straight. Eric's family lives up in Western New York, and their house is all surrounded by a ton of these tall, beautiful pine trees that like sway in the wind and creak, and it's really, really pretty. And so that's what these are inspired by. So there's just like some branches up top, and then I am going to actually switch to my smallest brush. So I'm taking my medium brush, cleaning it off in the water. Clean that off real quick, but I am going to go back to it again. Again, I never want to leave my brush in the water, never want to leave my brush with paint on it. It's just not a good habit to have, because I've lost so many brushes that way. Brushes that I love that were just like, you know, no good anymore. And good brushes can be expensive. Like sometimes you find a perfect little brush and it's like $5 just for something so small. And if you're buying that over and over and over again, it really adds up. So I'm taking my smallest size brush, and I'm going to use this same dark orange paint that we've been using. And I'm going to make some spindly branches coming off of these tree trunks. So just like this. Now your branches can look however you want, however many you want. I'm just going to put a few like this. I will be adding some foliage to these branches as well, but not to all of them. It just depends on how it goes. All right, I think that's good for that one. And then I'll go over to this one too. Just a few little branches. Yeah. I would like, if you can remember, if you are painting along with me tonight, or even if you do this at a later time. I know some people said they couldn't do it tonight, but they're planning on tuning in later. This video is going to stay up. We'll just keep it up on our YouTube page. So, if you want to recommend it to a friend to do as well, feel free. But please, share your finished paintings with me, or photos of while you're working on them. I'd love to see that kind of stuff. It feels like such a fun community when I can see other people participating, because I don't know, sometimes you never know if what you're doing is reaching out to people at all, and it's always nice to find out that it is. So those are my branches. I'm going to keep using the small brush, and I'm going to do, let's see now. I am going to do a small, some sticks down here connecting to the ground foliage.
Chris Bemis says he loves the live stream stuff, so even though being like live in person.
Thank you, Eric. Eric is letting me know of your comments on the YouTube, and I really appreciate it. Hi, Chris. I'm glad you enjoy our stuff, our live streams. So I'm making this little spindly bush down here. Just some sticks and stuff. Again, using this my smallest brush, just to add some kind of texture to this to the ground. Over here, I'm gonna do a fern with just a swipe of my brush and then a few swipes to show leaves for the fern. Like that. Put another fern. Where do I want to put another fern? Maybe here. Great. I think that looks good, and I think I'll do maybe one more right here, just a little one. Ferns are a great way, just to add some more depth to the bottom parts of paintings. I think that looks good. I'm going to rinse off my small brush now. This painting is all about creating depth in my landscape. And so starting with the light color and slowly going darker and darker, kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen those, what do you call them, those like puppet kind of, sorry, I'm just taking off my hoodie. There's like these types of like shadow puppet stages where they'll use like light and cut paper and have things further away from the cut paper so that they look different shades of black and gray and just creating depth. That's kind of like this a similar idea as to what I'm doing right here. I'm going to take my medium brush now, continuing with the dark orange paint. I'm just going to put a little bit of foliage onto some of these branches. So I think I'm going to put some here, like that. Similarly as what I did with the spruce trees in the background, is I'm having the branches kind of like sweep up a little bit, like the branches are reaching up towards the sun. I was actually just noticing that today. I was looking outside at a maple tree across the way, and how all of the branches right now are budding and feel like they're reaching up towards the sky and towards the sun. And I've got like all of these seedlings that I'm starting right now, and they're all just in my windowsills, and how they sweep up towards the light to try to get as much light as they can. There's actually, the other day I had some that were like these seedlings that were reaching, and I decided to turn them around, and it was amazing how just like in like 3 hours to watch, like they were in the bathroom, and every time I went into the bathroom they were reaching more and more in the opposite direction back towards the sun again after I turned them around. It was just really, really cool. Okay, so I think I am all set with my dark orange color now. Pretty sure that's all I want to do with that. So I'm going to take my medium-sized brush and I'm rinsing it out in the water. And the next color that I will be working on is a dark maroon red color. So clean off my medium brush, use the rag, and squeeze out any excess water. And I am going to mix up a dark red color now. So I don't have that much red left on my palette, so I'm going to get some more paint, starting with the red out of the bottle, and mix it up. Red has a very thin color, and so remember how I said I add, for the yellow, I like to add white so that it would give it a little bit of depth. I'm going to be doing that with the red as well, but more because I want it to be a darker color. So I've put about a quarter size amount of red right here onto my palette, and then I am going to use, do I use black or blue? I think I'm going to use blue. Mix up the blue. Now I have a pretty dark colored blue here. If you have a lighter, more turquoise blue, you might want to mix in black instead. I try to avoid using black unless I absolutely have to, which I will be using it later when I start working on the ravens. But black can, when you mix black into colors, it can very quickly turn your colors into a gray kind of muddy color. And so if I have to darken something, I usually like to use blue. When I'm painting on stage with pocket vinyl, I don't even have black. I have a black oil paint at all. I've never used black. Anytime you see me doing a dark color during a pocket vinyl show, it's always a mix of, what is the name of the blue? Begins with a P. Is it Pathos blue? And so I use a dark blue mixed with a dark brown, umber brown, and that will create a really deep, beautiful black blue color. It's never fully black. Okay, so I just put about a pea-sized amount of blue onto my palette there. Got my red over here. Remember, I'm not putting them right on top of each other. I'm going to take my medium brush. I'm going to scoop up a bit of the blue and then mix it into the red. Remember, you can always add more of a dark color like the blue, but you can never take it away. And so add it slowly. So I mixed a little bit. It definitely needs some more, so I'm going to put in some more until I get kind of a dark maroon color. Yeah, I really like what that's turning into. I want it to be just a little darker, so I'm going to use a little bit more of this blue. Yeah, that's looking wonderful. Great. I'm gonna keep mixing that. Looks like my middle orange color is still a little bit wet down here, and I'm gonna be layering on top. So I'm just gonna let that dry for just a second more while I continue mixing my colors. And while that is happening, I wanted to pull up, let me see. I wanted to pull up some, where is it? Sorry. You know, one of my biggest pet peeves is when people stand in front of me and scroll through their phones looking for something to show me. It is, Oh, here it is. And here I am doing it. Very sorry. But I wanted to pull up our tour dates that are coming up. So, like I said, on 1 week from today, we've got a live stream show. So wherever in the world that you are, you can tune into that. It's completely free. And we'll be doing about an hour long show. I'll be doing a full painting. Eric will be playing some songs, potentially some new songs, as well as some old classics. And I'm sure, we haven't talked about this, but I'm sure you can, if you tune in, you can make requests if you would like. Not guaranteed that we'll be able to get to all of the requests, but if you have something in mind, definitely tune into that and drop it in the comments. And our actual physical tour is going to be starting 2 weeks. So live stream 1 week from today on the, what's today? 22nd. No, 15th. Today's the 8th. Today's the 8th. So live stream, no, today's the 7th. Live stream on the 14th. And then tour starts on the 21st. So our in-person tour starting on Thursday, April 21st, we're going to be in Lock Haven, Pennsylvania. Then the 22nd, we're going to be in Frostburg, Maryland. The 23rd, we'll be in Roanoke, Virginia with Gaffer Project for their 10-year anniversary show, which should be very fun. On April 24th, we're going to be in Johnson City, Tennessee. It's been a really long time since we've been there, and we're looking forward to going back. Then we're going to have a couple days off, and we're going to join up with the two other guys in our band, Tim and Alex. And so the rest of the tour from then on out is going to be full band shows. And so starting on April 27th, we'll be in Binghamton, New York as a full band show. Let's see, April 28th, we'll be in Ohio. Eric, do we have the date, exactly where we're going to be for Ohio?
Yeah, that'll be Thursday the 28th.
Yeah, but where?
It's in Norwalk, Ohio.
Norwalk.
The details are still being finalized.
Okay, we'll be in Norwalk, Ohio on April 28th. April 29th, we'll be in Lansing, Michigan. Oh, what about the 30th? Do we have anything?
It's Detroit. It's still being
Detroit. Okay, so then on April 30th, we'll be in Detroit. May 1st, we'll be in Chicago again, which we're looking forward to. And May 3rd, we'll be in Wheeling, West Virginia at Nail City Record, which should be great. And so those like last group of shows will all be full band. Hopefully COVID doesn't keep us from fulfilling those, and it'll be great, and we'll all be safe, and we'll have a great time, and everybody will stay healthy. So looking forward to that. It'll be our first real tour in 2 years. So if you can come out to any of those, I hope that you do. Now, this is as dry as it's going to be for now. I am going to switch over to my large size brush, and using this dark red paint that I just mixed up using the red and the blue, I am going to start the 4th layer of this painting. So using my big brush, I am going to make a very large tree going diagonally this way. So starting down here, I'll go like that. And then filling it in. Remember, creating depth. And so as things are getting closer to the viewer, they are getting darker and they are getting bigger. So there is a big crooked tree trunk, just like that, using the wide side of my brush to create a good thick trunk like that. Wonderful. That is exactly what I want it to look like. I'm going to continue using the thick brush and give this tree a little bit of foliage here at the top. Just like this. Great. Okay. Now, I'm going to put in a little bit more. Let's see, I'm going to put in some over here. This is going to be a branch that's coming in from this side. I'm going to use the smaller brush to put in the branch itself, but since I've got the big brush out already, I'm going to put in the foliage part just like that. So it's kind of hanging there for now until I get the branch in. Now I'm going to clean off this brush, my big size brush, and I'm pretty sure... Wait, no, I'm not. I'm not cleaning off the big brush yet. Before I do that, I'm going to put in the skeleton of another tree right here. So just very rough, kind of triangle down here at the bottom. I will be filling it in, or I will be adding more details in a minute using the smaller brush, but for now I just want to get a bunch of paint there. So it's just kind of like a loose triangle shape. Okay, now I'm going to clean off this brush. I'm going to wipe it on my palette, and then I'm going to clean it off in my water, and we can set the big brush aside for the rest of the night. All right. Use my rag, squeeze out any excess water. Again, like I said, after I'm done with all of this and I've turned off the camera, I'll be taking all of my brushes to the sink, run them under running water one last time to make sure that there's no excess paint in the bristles at all. Now I'm going to take my medium-sized brush back to my dark red paint, and I'm going to give this tree here a couple of branches using my medium brush. You can also use your small brush if you're not feeling confident about using the medium size. Just one going off the edge there. And I'm going to do another one here, like that. And another one there, like that. Okay. And then I'm also going to, sorry, I didn't realize my palette was like right in the way there. I hope it didn't block too much. I'm going to use my medium brush again, and I'm going to create the branch that is holding on to this large floating bit of foliage up here. So it's just going like this. Nice. And another twig going like that. And I'm going to now use my medium-sized brush to create some just more details around these branches. Just make some like smaller bits of foliage kind of coming off of the large pieces so it looks a little bit more detailed. Just like this. Again, always kind of swooping the brush in an upward motion so that the branches look like they're swooping up. So that's pretty good. And then I'm going to go down to this little tree down here, and just like with my first two background trees, just making some branches on these that are kind of swooping upwards like this. Looks great. Yeah, kind of a chubby little tree down, Christmas tree down here. I think that is perfect. So now, oh, you know what? I want to I want to add a little bit of detail to this area right here. So I think what I'm going to do is continuing using my medium-sized brush. I'm just going to put two ferns in here. So I'm going to go like this and like this, and then use the medium-sized brush to add some leaves onto these two stems to create a couple of ferns. All right, just like this. That looks great. Okay. That's that. Now, the landscape portion of this painting is finished. So I've got my 1, 2, 3, 4 layers. Is that right? 4 layers. I've got my 4 layers, and I'm going to clean off my medium-sized brush, and that is all of the foliage that we are going to do for this painting. The final part of this painting are the 2 stars, the 2 flying ravens. What I'm going to do, my palette is completely covered, so I'm going to set that aside. I've got another paper plate that I'm going to use. I'm going to grab my blue paint. Now, the ravens are the focal point of the painting, but they're not very big, so you actually don't need a lot of paint. So just because they're the focal point, don't think that you need to put a ton of paint onto your palette. I'm going to put, let's see, my blue paint. Oh, having trouble. There we go. Looks like about a nickel-sized amount of blue paint. Do that first. I'm going to use my medium-sized brush, and I'm going to sketch out the basic placement of where I want the ravens to go. So one of them is going to be flying up, coming this way, and one will be flying down, creating kind of a focal point in the middle in between the 2 ravens. Now, I think I want that focal point to be here, where there's a little bit less busyness. So we've got the trees over here, we've got the trees over here, and we've got some blank yellow space here in the center, or I guess a little bit off center. And so that's about where I want the ravens to be circling. So I'm going to have one this way and one this way. So I'm going to use my medium-sized brush, and I have not mixed anything into my blue paint, but that's just because I'm at this moment just sketching out where I want the ravens to go. I will be adding some black and some white to the paint in a little bit later. So I'm just taking a little bit of the blue, and I'm going to start with kind of a half moon shape like that. Okay. And then I'm going to cross it like that. So it's got like a half moon with a line through the middle, like a cross with curved arms, or maybe like a bow and arrow. Like this is the bow and there's an arrow going through it like that. And I'm going to do a similar thing for the other raven. I'm going to do a half moon shape going this way. Okay. And another line for the body. So those are my 2 raven shapes. The half moon shapes are the wings. The line is the body. So now I'm going to kind of fill out what I want the wings to look like. So I'm going to put lines kind of coming off of the edges like this. And then I'm going to fill it in like that. All right, so you can see that kind of a thicker half moon shape. I'm going to do the same thing up here. Kind of some angled lines like this. And then fill that in like that. And then if it would be easier for you to use the small size brush, feel free to switch. I'm just using the medium one because it's just easier for me, but whatever is easier for you is fine. Now I'm going to add, using my brush, I'm going to add feathers all along the outside of these half moon shapes. So just dabbing along the edges like that on one side, and then the other side, and then the same thing up here. Feather shapes, or feather dabs along the shape of the wings like that. I'm going to put in the tail. The tail is a bit of a diamond shape, so from this center piece I'm going to make a diamond like that, And the same thing on this one. Diamond shape. And then the head is a bit of a cone with like a long kind of pointy section for the beak. So kind of smooth it like that. All right. So kind of like a tall triangular shape for the head. There you have your two ravens. Now I'm going to fill in the half moon shapes with this blue and kind of smooth out where the feathers connect to the body, just like this. If you want to add some more feathers in there, feel free. I'm going to fill in the tail part, and there is a raven. If it feels like it's too skinny, you can give it a little bit more meat on its bones, but however you want your ravens to look is absolutely fine. Do the same thing with this top one here. Fill out the wings with the blue paint. Fill out the tail. Maybe add a few more feathers in here. And fill out the other wing. There was this one time when, so I mentioned earlier that I grew up in northern Canada. The town that I grew up in used to be a mining town, and in the 80s the mine closed down, and so it was a lot of maps listed the town as an abandoned mining town, but there was a lot of people still living there. A lot of people. There's about 2,000 people still living there, mostly the indigenous people who are originally from that place, and then a few people that had worked in the mine, a few teachers that came up to work at the schools, stuff like that. But is very remote. The only way to get to my town was either by plane, like little, like a 8-seater plane, or train, and the train took 12 hours. There's no roads to get to my town. I'm cleaning out my medium-sized brush now, and I'm going to switch over to my smallest brush. And using the smallest brush and the blue, I'm just going to do some dots that kind of come off of the wings of the ravens. Just kind of like a, I don't know, just to give a bit of movement and energy to the ravens. So don't go overboard with the dots, just a few little things coming off of the wings. So the town that I grew up in, it's very middle of nowhere, right? You could only get there by train or plane, no roads. And in the woods, or the subarctic, so on top of the ridges, there's no trees because it was the wind was too harsh for trees to grow, and in the valleys would be like spindly little spruce trees and stuff like that. Kind of, I've heard people say it kind of reminded them of desert, but instead of hot, very cold. A lot of snow most of the time. Anyway, there was this one time I would take my bike out and just go, kind of out of town, down the old mine roads, where there was just, nobody for miles and miles. And I remember this one time stopping riding and just being kind of outside and looking around, and everything was so quiet. I couldn't hear I couldn't hear a single sound, like no cars, no planes, no sound of humans at all. Just complete silence except for the wind. And then above me, I just heard, like, it was really up high, but because there was no noise, the sound of a raven's wings fly, like the feathers flying through the wind. And it was just such a stark, cool sound to hear. that I've never heard before because, you know, you're always surrounded by people and noise at all times. And to be able to just hear nothing but feathers through wind, like 30 feet above you, it was really, really cool. So that's kind of, I guess, what this painting sort of represents when I originally made it. Okay, so there's my two ravens. There's the dots of, you know, movement coming off of them. I am going to add a little bit of body to the raven, so I'm going to take my black paint. This is the first time I'm going to be using it. Mix it up. If you don't have black or you'd prefer not to use black, feel free to use your red paint. Just mix a little bit of red into your blue. It'll make it into a nice dark color. I'm going to use black mostly just because I told you I was going to, and I feel like I should now. So tiniest little bit of black. I'm going to use my medium brush. I am going to take a little bit of my blue paint and put it aside. Now I don't want to mix the black right into the blue paint because I'm going to be using the blue. I'm going to be going lighter with the blue paint as well. So I'm taking a bit of my blue paint aside, take a little bit of my black paint, and mix those together to make a really dark blue. And then from there, I'm going to use my medium brush, and I'm going to paint just I'm not going to do the head or the front of the wings. I'm going to do just the back of the wings with a little bit of black to kind of give the ravens a little bit of a body, so they're not just like flat blue shapes. Just a little bit of black. It's probably not super easy to, I guess you can kind of see it. And then a little bit of black on the edge of the tail, but not on the full tail. Okay, and I'm gonna do the same thing up here. A little bit of black just on the edges of the wings on both sides. It's a little bit hard with the microphone in the way. There we go. And a little bit on the tail. Great. Now I am done with my medium-sized brush. So I'm going to be washing this off in the water. This is going to be the last time I'm using it. So I'll wash it off really good. Again, I'll be running it under the sink for a few minutes after this is all done. Squeeze out the water with my rag. Just kidding. We need to use the medium-sized brush one more time, but that's just for mixing paint. I'm going to take my white paint, mix it up, and I'm going to put just a small pea-sized bit of white paint onto my palette. And using my medium brush, which I am still using one last time, I am taking a little bit of this white paint and I'm going to mix it into the blue that I have left. Do not mix it into the blue-black mixture that you already have. This is just a mixture of white and blue together, and that's it. So you're just creating a really, really light blue. This is going to be the final color of this painting. And this is just to add some details to the painting. Okay, now that it's all mixed up, I'm going to clean off my medium-sized brush for good now. So now I'm done using the medium-sized brush. Done using the big-sized brush. Done using the medium-sized brush. So these are done. Squeeze out the water. And last part, I'm going to use my smallest brush. Make sure it's nice and pointy. Using the light blue that I just did, I am going to very carefully outline, move this water out of the way. I'm going to outline my ravens. Now this is a bit difficult to do so that you can see, but I'll try my best. So I'm just using this small brush. You don't have to perfectly outline them. I just feel like this, for me, gives the ravens a bit of definition. I'm also going to use this light blue in the body of the raven to show some of where the feathers on the wings are. My blue and black paint is still wet, but that's okay. If you find that your brush is getting a little bit too muddy, just clean it off and then get back to it. So this is just to add some definition to the feathers, add some definition to the ravens themselves. If you feel like your painting doesn't need it, feel free to leave it off. It's fine. That's the great thing about this, is it's your painting. You can have it look however you want it to look. I'm gonna add the definition around the tail. All right, there's one, and then I'm gonna do this one up here. See if I can keep my hand steady. I know there's some painters that paint with a long wooden stick that they'll lean against the edge of their painting so they can rest their wrist on it to keep their hands steady. Sometimes I've thought about getting something like that, but I think with the live paintings, I'm just going so quickly, it would slow me down too much. So, using this blue to go around the feathers. Just like this. A little bit of detail in the wings and around the tail. And that is the ravens. As I have this small paintbrush and light blue on my palette right now, I'm going to add a few light blue dots to the backs of the wings. Again, just to add a little bit of movement, add a little bit of magic to the figures themselves. Like as if they're shaking the dander off of their wings. My allergies haven't quite started up yet, but I'm anticipating it to happen any day now. So there are little light blue speckles all around. And you're basically done. That's the painting. Last thing you have to do not forget, in the corner of your painting, using your smallest brush, you can sign it. Actually, I'm going to put mine right here, kind of in the center. Sign your painting on the front. Put the date if you want to. And we are all set. N-C-E-W-I-C-Z. My last name is long. Okay, we're all done. Thank you very much for joining me tonight for this paint along event. I'll probably do another one sometime. If you have any requests of paintings that you've seen me do that you would like to learn how to do, put it in the comments or send us a message or something. And I hope you had a good time tonight. Oh, again, please take photos of your finished paintings and share them with us. We'd love to see those. And if you do share them with us, we will probably put them on our Facebook and Instagram if that's okay with you. And come see us when we're on the road. And tune in next week. Next Thursday, the 14th, 7 o'clock. We'll be doing our live stream show right from here. And it's, tune in from wherever you are. I guess that's it. So, thanks, and I hope you guys all have a great evening. And goodbye. I just did. I think I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hit that.
Oh, yep. And
oh, there.